I want you to just think for a minute about some of the big decisions you might have made when you were, I don't know, anywhere between 18 and 20. The course you enrolled in, that dodgy share house you moved into, trying to pay bills, you didn't have a lot of money, maybe just a part-time job. Who did you rely on to help you out? Well, maybe you were resolute and independent, but maybe you had friends or siblings or parents who were there if you stuffed up, who had your back at that age. A report from the Telethon Kids Institute this week has recommended providing much more support to WA kids who don't have mum and dad to fall back on. And the research suggests extending formal support for kids who've been in foster care to the age of 21. Dr. Melissa O'Donnell is one of the authors of the report. She's just returned from a symposium on the East Coast discussing how to improve outcomes for children who've been in out-of-home care. Melissa, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Geoff.
Really nice to have you here. You looked at data relating to thousands of West Australian kids. What did you learn?
Yeah, so there's about 5,000 children in care in Western Australia, and we have about 230 ageing out of care every year. So that means at the age of 18, they're basically left to their own devices. And on their 18th birthday, really, they're required to be independent. And for most young people in our community, most young people are at home till probably the age of 23 now.
Yeah, at least.
So these young people, they've had a lot of adversity in their life. They've experienced maltreatment, abuse and neglect, and yet we're expecting them to be more independent than other young people their own age.
So if I'm an 18-year-old foster kid, does my formal legal relationship with whoever is fostering me end when I turn 18?
Yeah, so basically the corporate parent, which is the government department, basically ends their relationship with you. So
what happens if they want me to stay and I want to stay with them?
It would have to be informal. So there is no real support.
There'll be no more support from the government at that time.
No.
I think a lot of our listeners would know and appreciate that when you're 18, you can be just as vulnerable. And I wonder what your evidence has shown what life is like for foster kids who are now suddenly left to their own devices. What did you learn?
Yeah, so what we found from those young people who've been in care, well, they were twice as likely to have hospital admissions for injuries and mental health conditions, 3 times more likely to have mental health contacts, 3 times more likely to be involved in adult justice systems, and only 18% were likely to finish their high school certificate. So really, they're really being set up to fail in this system because they're not having the support they need. Most 18-year-olds are still at high school.
Of course. Have we suspected this for a long time, and this is the first time you can say we've got some numbers to show that whilst we are, helping or allegedly helping these kids through these stages of their life, by the time they're 18, we haven't washed our hands of them, but we're not giving them any more help.
No.
Setting them up for fail.
Yeah, and I think that's it. The international evidence and our evidence that now has numbers attached to them really show that these young people who've been through the care system need further care until 21. And the Home Stretch campaign, which is a national campaign that's been conducted across Australia, and I'm part of that in Western Australia, we've really advocated for more support for care leavers till the age of 21 years of age.
Dr. Melissa O'Donnell from the Telethon Kids Institute is my guest on this Thursday evening at 8 minutes to 6 o'clock. I wonder if anyone listening to this program was a foster kid. What was it like to be going through the system, and what was it like to be you at 18? Were you glad to be free of it? Were you glad to be independent? Or did you just have a whole set of difficulties and there was no longer the support for you? I'm not sure you'll call me, but maybe you will. 1300 222 720. So what's the best kind of care or services that we could wrap around these kids now?
Yeah, well, the Minister actually announced last year that she was looking to extend the leaving care age to 21. So we actually co-designed a trial with young people who've been in care and what kind of support they would like. So they would like to have a transition support worker to support them to make those decisions as they're 18. They'd also like the option, if they're with a foster carer who wants to keep them on, to be able to stay in that home till 21. But also there are other young people. So there's a large, proportion of young people that are in residential care facilities at that age. So they're not with foster carers or kinship carers. And those young people obviously need assistance to find accommodation. And we know that young people who've been in the out-of-home care system, a lot of them will end up on the streets. It's a high proportion that will be in unstable housing.
How will you measure success of something like the home stretch trial? Well, do we need to see that those kids are healthier and happier and staying at school and not finding themselves in difficulties?
Yeah, I think so. In terms of the indicators that we'd like to see being measured with the trial is to really look at, okay, for education and employment outcomes, have we been able to improve those? Have we been able to keep them in stable accommodation? Have we been able to reduce their mental health issues? And are we able to reduce their health conditions and hospitalisations?
What gives you reason to feel confident that the answer to those things is yes? And what will be the challenges? Because obviously it has to be funded and fully resourced and supported for it to work. So what's the good of it and what's the worrying aspect of it?
I think the good of it is that the young people have already said that this is what they need to be able to succeed. They need some extra funding support to transition to adulthood. They also need help to get to university and to TAFE and to finish Year 12 certificates even. So I think those things will work in terms of providing that ongoing support, particularly if they've got stable accommodation. It's really hard to go to school and study if you don't have stable accommodation.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I think the challenges are that the government has committed to a trial, but it's only with 15 young people. So what we're hoping to do is to really see how this works for those 15 young people and tweak it as needed.
So what does extra support look like? Is it financial support? Is it mentoring? Is it someone they can always call?
Yeah, I think with the transition support workers, that was one thing that they really wanted. So someone outside who can provide support for them and check in with them regularly to help them make those decisions about their lives. Also, they wanted a support circle. So that's like informal mentoring, but in a more formalised way where we can bring in people who may have assisted them in the past, that they'd like to have that support around them.
And Anglicare is going to be part of this as well. So
yeah, Anglicare is going to be running the trial, and we're hoping that by the end of it we'll be able to roll it out for all young people in care so they've got that option. And the other issue is that young people wanted the choice. So they wanted to say whether or not they wanted to have that opt-in and opt-out approach. And when you're 18, you might say, well, I want to be on my own, I want to be independent, but by 19 go, this is harder than I thought, I need to come back and get support.
Melissa O'Donnell, thank you so much for coming in. We hope this goes well, and we'll also keep a keen eye on it. So it's a limited trial for 15 young people, but it's a 12-month trial. So we'll get to see if there's genuine improvement in the lives of these young people, and then we start arguing to make it more substantial. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks, Geoff.
Melissa O'Donnell from the Telethon Kids Institute.